I'm your host, Francesca Amato-Banfield. Today, our topic is West Virginia, almost hell. If anyone remembers, their slogan used to be almost heaven, but unfortunately, we have found it to be as close to hell as possible. When we have uncovered case upon case of child abuse, physical child abuse, child sexual abuse caused by child predator services in the state of West Virginia and secured by the judicial system, the continuing abuse to families in our investigation has been so prevalent in the state of West Virginia, from literally the very top to the bottom of the state of West Virginia. Punished for Protecting has been investigating that state, and parents clear across the state that have been overwhelmed with abuse by judges and the child predator services. We have witnessed firsthand judges violating the Constitution on every level in the state of West Virginia, not allowing litigants to have anyone in the courtroom to watch what they're doing. I personally have appeared in courts in the state of West Virginia and have been asked to leave the courtroom as an ADA advocate. This is something that we must continue to shine a bright spotlight on in that state. Today, I'm going to show some appalling and disturbing photographs of child abuse that is occurring in the system, not with the parents, in the system, held against their will in foster care. As we know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we have this problem in every state. I've been working with high volumes of parents who have lost their children in the state of West Virginia, and they've had no recourse or remedy. They have not had proper due process. They have not had attorneys working for them. On the other hand, we have had parents who have tried to fight in that state and yet continue to be abused by the officials and the judges and the CPS workers. Today I have with me a chapter leader for the state of West Virginia with Punished for Protecting, Becky Henderson. She has worked tirelessly with other chapter leaders and advocates and parents, victims of the state of West Virginia. Together, we have been approaching legislators, the U.S. Attorney Michael Stewart of West Virginia, and the Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, and as well as Carla Wolford, Richard Provost, and Becky Henderson, who's with us right now, who went to the Department of Human Resources in Charleston, West Virginia. And I'm going to show you this clip right now as to their work, explaining what's happening in that state.
Giving me temporary custody of his children, his custodial rights. November the 23rd, she goes in and does a petition, Sherry Chrisman did, lying under oath that there was no other court actions, and even in the case notes, it indicates that she knew that I had filed that. Now that, in itself, right there, is perjury. That is perjury. No way around it. Federal law and the state code.
You turned this over to a state trooper and he investigated. What was his findings? He talked to me and
See, Kiefer or Michaels?
Michaels.
I still haven't got a report. They still haven't finished it.
I certainly appreciate how emotional the situation is for y'all. I mean, this is as important as it gets. I mean, I recognize that. And we deal with cases all over the state, and I mean, this is tough on any family. Several of the items that you're mentioning are matters of law that really aren't within the jurisdiction of the DHHR beyond the conduct of our worker. You know, for example, if it's perjury or not, we can't make a ruling on that. That's not our purview. That's a judicial branch matter. And so, in as far as you have appealed this, which I would highly recommend if you feel that your rights have been infringed upon, that would be the entity or branch of government that would need to take action. Even if, and I don't know the facts, and you very well may be telling all the information here as it is, and that might be the cold hard fact, or there might be another side to it. There's no way that we could rule, even if I totally agreed or believed what you're saying, and I'm not saying that I don't, it's just not our purview to do so. And so I guess my more fundamental question would be, in terms of the DHHR, what our roles are and responsibilities. Is there anything that we need to do?
I think the girls should be making sure that employees, CPS workers are following the law to the code. And if they're not,
Let me
trust me, I've already gone to Mike Stewart. I have gone to Mike Stewart. I have spoken with Mike Stewart. He is going to be looking into some of this stuff. I'm not playing no more. I want my grandchildren back. There is no reason a service-connected, disabled veteran that served this country, that I've had custody of my grandchildren in the past, and the fact that I have been approved as an AFS host family, either you've screwed up before or you're screwing up now. And if you're going to try and say that 22 years ago, I pled no contest to a misdemeanor battery, that's held against me, you're wrong, because the federal code says 10 years.
It was a felony, you pleaded it down to a misdemeanor.
No.
Wasn't it?
No. You want to know what happened?
You don't have to tell me.
I took a fall for a man in law enforcement that had abused me by hanging me up on my throat and putting a gun to my head and then walk-in closet. And I can prove, because he has been found guilty 2 times of domestic battery and violation of protection order since then, and he's also on behind the blue wall. 2, y'all have guardian ad litem. You have at least one guardian ad litem.
Guardian ad litem
that's
don't
supported
work
by the
for
court.
DHHR.
That is a
Who do they work for?
convicted sex offender.
Appointed by the courts.
Now, who is over CPS? Because there is like nothing. Okay, I'm a mandated reporter of abuse. As far as I'm concerned, they're abusing the crap out of my kids. Who do I report that to?
Well, hold on a minute, your case is different than hers.
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I can go over my son's case. I made here, we're on Facebook Live right now, because we're getting a little tired. It's my son's, which I have audio evidence, I have petitions, fake petitions, CPS client contact assessment reports that show a cover-up of my son's case, 2000 child abuse and neglect case. I went through 2 years of illegal court proceedings. I beat Kangaroo Court. First person in history you're looking at.
What county was your case?
Wood County.
Was your case in Wood?
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
Yeah, so I talked to Nancy Exline, Tina Mitchell at the time. I sent the Warrior Disciplinary Council 10 pounds of evidence that included audio evidence. I know you guys don't deal with the Lawyer Disciplinary Council. They did an investigation. A year later, they said that they couldn't find anything. Then the Office of Inspector General Fraud and Management did an investigation for a year with all the evidence against CPS and other persons within DHHR. They couldn't find anything. So, I mean, the whole point of it is somebody needs to start taking action against these workers. Okay. They're going into schools illegally. They're investigating homeschooling and educational neglect, which CPS doesn't have the authority, nor do they have, that's not even the policy of Child Protective Services, to go into investigate either one of those. They're talking to my son at least. I couldn't even tell you for like, I actually shut him out of court, Wood County CPS, so I'm trying to think. They were talking to my son at school for like over a year. Then we have the guardian ad litems doing it for almost 2 years. I was in I could go through about every caseworker down there.
Excuse me, what was your name?
Richard Provost.
Richard Provost, okay.
So we have 2 Wood County cases and a Hampshire County case.
Right. Well, there's several in Hampshire County. It's just everybody's afraid to speak up against these people for some reason.
Have you?
It's like, and I've been threatened already by the court saying they sent the message home with my daughter to make sure you let your mother know that, now this is a person, they told me first off that I'm not nobody, I'm not included in this case. I had legal custody of that kid right there, and I went to Texas and got the little baby, and I had her for 3 years custody. Okay, then all at once, all of a sudden, they included these 2 children with my other grandkids that I kidnapped, okay?
Was this a Texas CPS?
No, this was Hampshire County. We went to Texas and picked up the baby from the hospital. I had her for 3 years. I've had him for 15 years. And when my daughter got pregnant and had another baby, they included them in the case of child abuse and neglect on her. How's she going to do that? She never had them. She had them at the hospital. That was it. So right there, that's false. They can't include those kids. These kids were very well taken care of, very much loved. They had a roof over their head. They had all their necessities, schooling, dental work, doctors, everything they needed. And they said I'm nobody, and that they were circuit court, they were over the family court judge, and I'm just nobody. So this nobody now, they're threatening because I post stuff on Facebook about CPS and all the laws they violate. So they told my daughter to make sure to let your mother know she will stop posting on Facebook one way or another. So whether they kind of want to throw me in jail or whatever excuse they're going to come up with.
Well, CPS workers don't have the authority.
No, the courts do, but I'm just saying, the
Legal
courts
gag
up here, they listen to the guardian ad litem who,
Now, these are your grandkids?
yes,
What's your name?
Carla Wolford.
I know you've contacted DHHR previously.
Yeah, they've even gone so far as to try to say that my home isn't good enough. In your own case notes, it very well says clean, neat, and appropriate. Clean, neat, and appropriate. I live in the country. Anybody's home is valued less when it's outside the city
Yes, I
limits.
live in the woods
My
as well.
house is over $100,000 valued home.
Yes, ma'am.
You know that's,
don't
you know it ain't
dispute
trash.
that, But your 2 cases in particular, have you all contacted us at the central office for?
That's what, spell your last name,
WOLFORD.
and you're PROVOST?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, your name sounds familiar, Provost, but your name sounds familiar, but I'm not familiar with yours. Now, would the case be in your name?
No, it's actually my daughter's.
Okay, what's your daughter's name?
Tanya Haymond. Haymond. Yeah, I had an attorney, and when we went to court, the judge kind of just was, I'm looking for a good word. I can't think of a good word. The judge was not right. I mean, he was just rude and ignorant, okay? He actually threw my attorney out for actually saying, okay, what about due process? There was no due process. Why am I not included? Why was I not appointed an attorney or given an attorney at all? Because I had legal custody from a different judge, a retired judge now, he is retired, but I had legal custody, and that wasn't good enough. They said they were above that judge.
What were the names of these judges, ma'am?
Carter Williams is the current judge, and the judge that I got custody, when I got custody back in 2003, was Charlie Parsons.
Okay, so that's not the full interview. There's more. However, due to time constraints, we're going to get onto the next part here. I have today Rebecca Henderson, chapter leader for the state of West Virginia under Punish for Protecting Incorporated. And Rebecca, hi, welcome, and thank you for being on Punish for Protecting News today.
Thank you for having me.
Rebecca, can you state for the viewers a little bit about your background?
I am a service-connected disabled veteran. I served in the United States Air Force. I was a sergeant with a top secret security clearance. I did Gator, ground air transmit receive. I also did disaster preparedness. I am also an ordained minister. I have done advocacy work for people with disabilities. I have been a community living instructor where teaching people with disabilities to appropriate manners to behave. I have advocated for my own children through the educational system. My daughter was one of the first in this state to ever have a Section 504 plan to go through within the education system here. I'm an ordained minister now. My goal is now to get my grandchildren back with our family, and hopefully to help other people in the process and whistleblowing on the wrongdoing that they are doing, not just in CPS, but also in the court system itself with permitting their illegal acts.
Yeah, and there certainly are illegal acts, and we have a nation in crisis when we have no due process, which is our rights to due process in a court, fair and equitably. We know that in your case, and we're working with a large group of people in the state of West Virginia for, my goodness, something like 8 months now straight. Majority of those people are very afraid to speak out and show their faces because they've been terrorized, they've been threatened. Would you say that that's an accurate depiction of what's happening in West Virginia?
It is horrific. And yes, that is a very correct statement. I mean, when you can come from, in November of 2016, even before a petition was filed to take my grandchildren, I had spoken with Mr. Lopez and Casey Perdue in Charleston over DHHR. And I told them then I feared retaliation. Oh, no, there won't be any retaliation. Well, don't you know, some days later, a petition is filed and there was perjury, false swearing, whatever you want to call it, a lie is a lie. And the ripple effect from that is very traumatic. It goes out into so many different violations that occurs right into that of federal violations, you know, violations of the ADA under Section 2, under Section 504, under fraud of federal spending, you know, basically kidnapping my grandchildren, you know, holding them hostage. And mine isn't the only case. There's so many people that I have learned that are having the same things doing. Instead of putting all this money into the foster care system and these people lining their pockets, they should be putting them into the family instead of draining our Social Security funds underneath the Title 4E.
Yes, and that's exactly why we're working on Don Rufty's executive order to jail the judges and the CPS workers and all the poor actors, public servants for these illegal activities. And we are raising as much public awareness as possible across our entire nation in regards to the failure to protect children under the guise of protecting children, taking children and endangering their lives and placing their lives at risk while they are in fact destroying the family, destroying our families all over the place in every state. With our spotlight on the state of West Virginia, I have seen horrific abuse to children, which we're about to show, physical abuse, sexual abuse, the ripping apart, the tearing apart of children from families, loving families, good families, families with good backgrounds, families with extensive credentials, poor families, rich families, educated and uneducated families. Everyone has legal rights. They have civil liberties that are being violated every day. Intimidation tactics. You know, the fact that they're not allowing legally people inside the court to keep it in the secret dark court. The Judge Brown is constantly mentioned, or rather, the one that was just mentioned by Carlo Wolfert. I can't think of his name right now, but these judges that are constantly being mentioned over and over in the state of West Virginia for violating people's parents' rights, and also for putting illegal gag orders on parents and telling them that they can't speak out about their cases, show their children's photographs, their grandchildren's photographs. These are fundamental rights, just like breathing. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, they have never tried a gag order. I know there are other people that have been intimidated with this. They have been threatened with being put into jail. if they speak about it or anything. But, you know, it's our constitutional right to be able to have freedom of speech of anything. Maybe we can't identify the child, but you can use their initials because that's what they do in juvenile cases. So therefore, we have a right to speak about what is going on within our, you know, within ourselves. How is it that they can violate HIPAA violations and doing things, but then they ask us not to speak about it? Well, excuse me, you're violating my rights. How about that one? You know, give us back our children. Stop violating us. Quit trying to put gag orders on people. Because the point is, if they put a gag order on me, I'd just get even louder, you know, but that's me. Uncle Sam made me to bark, and being a sergeant, second in command of an entire site, yes, I'm going to bark. And the courts are intimidating and hurting these families by saying, oh, you can't talk about it. Well, they tell them to go to counseling, or they tell them then they can't talk about it. You know, when can they and when can they not? They're trying to dictate where they have no right to dictate.
Yeah, and when we don't have this type of judicial accountability, and when they're doing things in secret like this, we see the mess that it's caused and the danger to families to have any sort of justice in our country. And that's what we see. We see zero accountability in these courts, but it's highly irregular in the state of West Virginia. Like, I think in the worst that I've personally witnessed, because there's no semblance of any due process at all in that state. I'm going to show some photographs. This is while in state custody, and this is just a few. Okay, this list goes on, and unfortunately, this is something that we see in every state. But right now, you're going to be looking at some photographs of abused children in state custody.
Injustices of the family court system across the nation made a stop in Charleston today.
Francesca Amato-Banfield, who wrote the book Punished for Protecting, about her own experience with family court in the state of New York, is on a mission to work for reform within the system, from custody issues to foster care and child protective services. She says she is advocating not just for the parents who are not treated fairly, but for children, she says, are placed in dangerous situations.
We will not have a nation if we keep allowing this. We really won't. Like I said, the damages that it causes these children and these families is irreparable.
And you can find out more about the program by checking out WSAZ.com and going to featured links.
We did have a number of victims and advocates come out to the state capitol in West Virginia. The news did show up, and you know, they were interested in hearing what's going on. It's something that they've actually been hearing. And the fact that we are literally pounding the pavement in the state of West Virginia at this time, is finally getting some sort of results, which we will show the viewing audience. But Rebecca, you know, in speaking with the different legislators and so on in the state of West Virginia, I feel like we finally have cracked some sort of a dent in that state in regards to what's happening in that state by speaking to the Department of Human Resources, Child Predator Services there in Charleston, as well as to the Attorney General, Patrick Morrissey, who's running for the state Senate, and also Mike Stewart, the U.S. Attorney of West Virginia. I've contacted their office on several occasions to support and back all of the victims there that have been contacting his office. And we are seeing him opening up some audits and some different things happening at this time. We want to make sure that we stay hot on his trail, though, and that this is something that does not get overlooked, or that they just, maybe throw an appeasing bone. Okay, we need this whole entire situation taken care of. What do you feel has been happening, Rebecca?
In the very beginning, nothing much was happening, and it didn't make any difference how many calls went in. The more people that started stepping forward and actually calling and stuff, it has made a crack. Right now, according to Representative McKinley's office, Linda in Morgantown, she has admitted that there is an investigation going on within CPS in the state right now. Mr. Lopez has also verified that with me. And as well, there's news articles that are saying that there is an investigation going on, rather maybe not an investigation, but where the Department of Justice is threatened to sue the DHHR, CPS over their foster care system and their Medicaid funding that they've been utilizing. So they are saying it's the opioid crisis. Maybe there is some with opioid crisis, but the main thing is CPS is taking healthy children that are in good homes, and they're taking them away, not giving due process, lying under oath, doing some violating human rights, not honoring President Trump's executive order, for serious human rights violations and corruption within our state. It just keeps going on and on. And if the representatives are not going to keep pushing and our people don't start standing up, they're going to keep getting by with it, but they are still retaliating against the individuals that are standing up, even though there is an investigation going on statewide within CPS.
Correct, and there is now an investigation that is going on statewide, and I really believe that it's the amount of calls that we made, and we've continuously put in, and we continue to shine that spotlight, and we will continue to press this issue. And personally, I feel that by us, in fact, exposing these stories nationwide, targeting specific states, because I feel that some states they're all horrible. When you take someone's child for a second, you've caused irreparable damages to families, and you've actually placed the nation in crisis when you do not follow our due process laws, when false allegations become the bread and butter of family court and CPS, and the injustices are off the charts. You have now failed us as Americans, and you failed our future. So I personally feel that we need to continue to target these specific states that we are to bring about the change that we need desperately in our nation. Okay, we are dealing with very many high-profile cases at this time, specifically Punished for Protecting is dealing with, where cases have been twisted and turned in such a manner that are causing problems to families. And they come under the guise that they're protecting children, and yet they endanger the very lives of children in this process that they claim is actually to protect children. It is literally used against children and used against families. We can actually show you that right now that there is an ongoing investigation in the state of West Virginia. I do believe that is because of our efforts and the support of Punished for Protecting coming in and saying this is in fact happening, and you have our eyes on this as well. This is not just the people of West Virginia that have been fighting this battle alone. And this is why we require and request the support of other advocates throughout the nation to continue to work together and to continue to expose this. So there you have it on the screen, that there is in fact an ongoing investigation currently into the state of West Virginia DSS. And audits have been done, and judges in the state of West Virginia have been found guilty of stealing taxpayers' monies and using it for personal recreation. renting cars and different things. This has all happened after our efforts of shining a spotlight into the state of West Virginia. And we only just began. And we will continue this. And not just in the state of West Virginia. We have problems and issues in every state in our country. And we as Americans have to hold these judges accountable for what they're doing behind closed doors. This whole rule that they have of confidentiality is not to protect children. This rule is to protect the courts and the high amounts of funding and the financial gain on the backs of these children and families. And if that's not enough to get you prepared to start to help working on stopping this atrocity in our families, in our nation, knowing that this is affecting our nation. This is affecting the future generation of your children and your children's children. And the fact that we will not have a nation if we continue to allow this. We must hold the judges accountable. We must hold CPS workers accountable. We must hold law enforcement that doesn't serve and protect accountable for the detrimental damages to families nationwide. We are right now looking at thousands upon thousands of children that are physically abused on a daily basis in foster care. This is something that is a very hard pill to swallow. And until you pay attention and you find out why this is something that you see now all over Facebook, you see groups forming all over the nation, you see protests everywhere now. Families are coming out. Families are talking about it. Our judicial system has failed us as a nation, and it fails us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Children are being ordered into abuse on a daily basis. Families are having their rights severed without an attorney present, without a court appearance. When someone can show up at your door and bring a SWAT team, snipers, throw you into a mental institution, not allow you to leave as an adult, take your children based on hearsay, right or wrong, if something was done, if something was wrong, if something did actually happen, when you do not have an evidence-based state-required trial or hearing, that is an unbalanced justice system. And that is a system that is actually endangering all of our rights in our country. That is something that is in direct violation of our Constitution. And without our Constitution, our country has fallen apart. Our country no longer has the level ground. It doesn't have the foundation that it's supposed to have when they're coming into your homes and taking your children, when they're stepping on your property and holding you at gunpoint in front of your children. If there is a report made and you have guns on your property ready to be shot, that's abuse to your children. And common sense is enough on that factor, let alone the fact that there is a wealth of social science research that proves that it's not just detrimental effects to the psyche of a child and to the future of that child as an adult, but it takes away 20 years from a child's life in adulthood. We want to know why children are cutting themselves. We want to know why there's a high opioid crisis in our country, heroin crisis, meth crisis. These are families that can no longer cope. And the root cause is what's happening in the family court, child predator services, the failed foster care system, and the robbery of forced adoption. When you take children from biological families, you have caused a counterfeit that is nothing short than a science fiction movie. And this is a problem. And this is one that we at Punish for Protecting will continue to fight until we get the change that we desperately need in our country and in every state in our country, every county in our country. Now I'm going to go and show you a website right now called For the Children. This is an event that's coming up in September. I recommend that everyone please go to this page, this website, forthechildrenusa.com. We cannot see one more child suffer or endure this type of pain. I also ask everyone to please go to change.org. It's on my Facebook page every day under Francesca Amato-Banfield. Every day I post the change.org proposal to our president, executive order, written up by Don Ruffy. I need everybody to sign it, share it. This will indeed jail the judges and all the bad actors, to include CPS workers. It is urgent that you sign that and share it. This is the justice that we deserve and need in our country, to hold our nation's judicial system accountable for the damaging effects to families. If you read the change.org proposal, you will see that it actually spells out the felony crimes that have been committed by the judicial system and CPS in over 50 years of damages. We have to have justice placed back in our nation. Also, if you want recompense for the damages that you've endured, go to my website at punishedbeingaaparent.com. Register for our 2 times per week classes. We have amazing instructors to help you with the solutions that you need for the protection of your families and for the protection of your rights, and how to change your cases, no matter how bad they look. We have solutions available to you. Register today at that website in the events section and fill out the short form on the donation page. Also, go to We the People versus the 50 United States by John Gentry. That would also be your recompense on a national lawsuit. Many groups are working together. And we thank you today for watching Punish for Protecting News. And let's stop making our states almost hell, and let's bring them back to being heaven again. Thank you.
Just please stop yelling at me, please.
Call 911 now!